hasn't happened in 8 seasons where Arkansas loses a non-conference game at home in the month of November. And it happened. It's happened to a lot of teams. I think we are the 6th or 7th ranked team that this has happened to this year. And, the transfer portal makes that stuff difficult. Of course, this wasn't a team full of transfers. This is a team full of dudes that have been there forever. And Arkansas did not play well as they lose to the UNCG Spartans by a score of 78-72. And silver lining, like maybe this needed to happen. Maybe they needed to have that before they go into the Bahamas. Downside is you feel a lot less confident going into the Bahamas because what happened in this game is the offense was terrible the first half, but that's not why they lost. It's part of the reason. The offense was terrible in the first half. That happens sometimes. Like sometimes you don't make shots don't go down. It did look just kind of discombobulated and not good in general the first half on the offensive end. But the real thing is we've given up 23s in 2 games. And you would think, well, geez, I mean, if you've given up 23s in 2 games, you must be really stopping the dribble drive. You must really be like kind of like playing off guys and not letting anyone get in the paint and letting nobody get to the rim and nobody get to the foul line. Yeah, that's not true. So our perimeter defense right now is not taking away the 3, nor is it taking away the dribble drive. And this is the worst of all things. Usually one of those things happen because you're taking away the other one. And neither of those things are happening. And that wasn't just the first half. We just started scoring the second half, which we did in the first half. And we're in a 14-point hole. And I think we got it down to 4 at one point. But the defense never really got a lot better. And I think Musselman's right, Jake, that for whatever reason, like the physicality is not that we're not playing physical enough on the defensive end.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say the number one thing you noticed about a team like that when they came in is they immediately got chippy. Like and you see that happen sometimes when smaller teams come in and they kind of got a chip on their shoulder, and a lot of times it doesn't go well for you if you wake the sleeping giant because you're playing a team that's out personnel you, has better, more athletic players, maybe bigger players. And a lot of times you see that happen where you just wake them up and then they just smack you down. But to our discredit, those guys punched us in the mouth right from the beginning as far as just antagonizing. Like you could see they were extra hip checking, little shoulder shoves after the whistle blow. You know what I mean? Like they were
well
not.
they bullied us a little bit. I don't by the way, the starting lineup change, not the one I'm looking for. I don't want to question Muss, but that ain't what I was looking for, dude. Like our problem is physicality. Here's the thing. Trevor Brazil's great. He's not physical. He's a rim protector that blocks shots. I know about this because that's what I am. That's what I was my whole life. Although I'm okay with playing physical as well. But if that's your 4, dude, like I don't think that Trevor Brazil is your guy to play the 5. I just don't think he is. And if he is, you better have like a 4 in there that's a real bully. And that lineup did not have a bully at the 4. Like that Davenport ain't that. I know that because I felt like Brazil got bullied a little bit some of those time. Like he was getting like shoved around. I know Mackay didn't play great in this game, but like he is the guy for you.
Well, and again, I'm not sure that Nuss doesn't know that and that he's not exploring a little bit and trying to get these other guys ready for the big games and is not, and like I said, when he goes into that game initially, I'm not trying to say Muss is like taking it for granted or anything, but he might not be he wants to he probably didn't expect them to be that big of a challenge. You know what I mean? Not that he
Mhm.
thought we were going to steamroll them, but probably didn't think you were going to be down by 10 most of the game.
Mhm.
And so he starts out, hindsight's 2020, of course, he starts out trying to get these other guys in the game. I think if you wanted to criticize that, you could say, and I think maybe this does happen to a certain extent, one of the maybe subconscious mental issues about being coming off the bench, and this would go for Battle as well, because I mean, like I said, this is just a theory, so maybe I don't know, but it feels like when you come off the bench instead of as opposed to starting, there is a little bit more of a mentality like I have fouls to give, so I can, you know what I mean? Like, and it's not even
Mhm.
that I have fouls to give; it's that when you're a starter, especially in the first 5 minutes of the games, you're very conscientious about not picking up fouls, especially not stupid fouls. Like you're not going to be, you know what I mean? You're trying to save up your fouls so you can play really aggressively in the fourth quarter. And in the fourth quarter, if you have to start getting down and slapping the floor and reaching in and hip checking people, you have that leeway. Whereas you don't start out always that way, reaching in, trying to get passing lanes that maybe you otherwise wouldn't, trying
UNC
to get the
Green
ball
you
over
you
someone's back on a
UNC
rebound.
Greensboro starters did.
But what I'm saying is, I feel like you just have a little bit more. You feel like you have more leeway on that. And we watched, if you paid attention, I mean, this is one of the things that just like one of the many facets of this game that went wrong for us is immediately Brazil, well, not Brazil, Battle and Mackay came in, immediately picked up stupid fouls
Mhm.
right away, just like inbound, pushing the guy in an inbound play, kind of like where it's like totally unnecessary. It's not going to, even if you hit the ball there, it's just going to go out of bounds or whatever. Like, so, and both of those guys picked up quick fouls that really mattered later. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it mattered to the way that they could play in the third and fourth quarter when they got put back in. And it limited their minutes here and there as well. And things like that, like I mean, with especially with a guy like Battle, not that I'm saying I don't want him to come off the bench. But I'm just saying maybe one of the downsides is either a little careless with their fouls, and it matters because as an offensive player like Battle, the last two games he hasn't been able to get in a rhythm. You know what I mean? It'll be
Because
like
of
the
fouls, yeah.
second he starts to get into a rhythm, he picks up another foul, and now he either has to play much more cautiously, or you can tell he's thinking about it, or they just pull him out. Either way, it interrupts his flow. And the last couple of games, our offense, nobody has really, except for in small bursts that then, to the other team's credit, have been interrupted by good plays on their part, whether defensively or offensively. But our rhythm has been continuously disrupted on offense with just right when something good happens. And I actually think these things are related to some degree. I mean, getting into the nuance of our defensive problems, some of it is, and I've totally experienced this, like when they do something good, and I mean, we commented on this in the last game, but it happened again in this game, is every time you would start to build something, you'd put together two stops, or you'd hit a three, or you'd get a and one, or somebody would make a good block. It seemed like inevitably, very shortly thereafter, the water hose got turned on that momentum. And I don't think that's totally coincidental. Sometimes it is, but sometimes you could tell if Brazil gets an and one on the other end, or not to pick on him, but like one of these guys, you can tell for 1 second as they're jogging down the court, they're thinking about it. You know what I mean? Like they're replaying it in their head and they're glad they made it. Dude, I do that all the time. When I hit a three, when the ball gets worked around and it comes to me and I hit the shot that my team wants, it's like, hey, that's we move the ball, knock it down. When you knock it down, as I'm jogging back, I'm like, thank God I didn't let my team down. Yeah. Instead of being the zero, I'm the hero. Instead of them all looking at me like, well, probably didn't want Jake taking a three. Instead, they're all like, yeah, dude, you knock it down when you need to. And it's like, you can, and then all of a sudden you're like, you hear someone go, yo, and like your guys will step behind you. You know what I mean? And they're trying to throw an outlet to him. And that did happen to us quite a bit where it felt like, and if you don't know basketball really well, like your guy in the transition getting a step on you and then somebody else having to come over, like it can disrupt the entire, like even if it doesn't look like that absent-mindedness led to the score, it's like if you it led to the wide open three in the corner 5 passes later
Yeah.
because you guys weren't set up in your defense.
Well,
You know what I mean?
does it seem like they just, I mean, okay. Um, so a little
All that
bit,
to say, I feel like sometimes we're when good things happen, it actually destabilizes our defensive focus for just a second.
yeah.
And I don't know how you work on that or if he can identify that. I mean, I'm sure it's just a early year jitters kind of thing that I mean, these guys they've all played a lot of ball. They'll figure it out.
Well, so was this a trap game at all? I don't know how much credibility you give to that sort of stuff. Like you just finished a game. You have one. This is the game that you have to play to get before you go over to the Bahamas, where you're gonna like have all these marquee games on ESPN and all this stuff. Because it didn't look like we were locked in when we came out, that's not. Sometimes there's nothing a coaching staff can do. I mean, I've seen teams do this. I've seen high school teams do this. I've seen high school travel ball teams do this. I mean, I watch a lot of basketball. Kid that plays basketball, and dude, I see it. Like I see it, and it's not because the coach isn't telling him. It's not because he's not. He knows it. But I've still seen, you got to play this team. And sometimes in high school ball or travel ball, you've beat this team twice before handily. What you're really concerned about is a team on the other side of the bracket that you're pretty sure is going to win too, and you're going to face them in 4 hours. So, and then you go out there and and at halftime, you're down 2 or whatever, and you don't know what's going on. And what's going on is you didn't start the game locked in. You started the game assuming the result.
Mhm.
And like that's all it takes, dude. Like all it takes in college basketball now to get beat is to assume the result. Like and you that's not a good thing to do. Like you have to go get that result. You have to go earn that outcome. And it seemed like it seemed the first half. That's what was going something I don't know for sure. I don't know how like you got that many people watching you. It seems like you want to perform, but I don't know. The first half, it definitely seemed like that's how you end up with a 14-point hole where you're just like, dude, you guys aren't like, dude, the 12 turnovers leading to 16 points in the first half. Like, you're just being careless with the ball. Like, you're not like locked in like you're supposed to be. Like, this game is just another game to get to the games that matter. That's what it looked like. Now I think they snapped out of that somewhat in the second half. They didn't turn the ball over in the second half nearly like that. 14 points will wake you up, like when you're a 14-point hole. And I'm sure that halftime speech was something to behold. But did you get any of that? Like, were you just like, dude, you guys aren't ready for this right now?
Well, unfortunately, I mean you know the the year is still so early still, and we've talked about this before. I mean, the scary reality is, there's a version where
Scary reality is
this,
Vanderbilt beat that team.
yeah, well, the scary reality is, I mean, I hope what you're saying is actually would be a good thing, is if they came out there, underestimated them, and the Purdue game.
Just overlooked it. Just like, dude, let's just get this win and get on the plane and go get some sun.
But I said this after the Purdue game. If they play like that, then we have a really good team. I don't know if they can. I don't know. I've never seen any of these guys before. I don't know how indicative that is of how they play. And unfortunately, now we have 2 games, 2 sample selections of data that show that we're an okay team, and we have a couple that show that we're capable of being a great team. Now, which one of those is like going to be historically indicative of how these guys play? I'm not sure yet, but I hope it's the former and not the latter. And but this, you have to admit, these last 2 games are data much closer to, well, those shots went down when they played Purdue. I even said this after the Purdue game. I was like, they took a lot of hard shots.
Yeah.
The one thing I would say that I'm worried about is but Muss's offense is always like this. He does. I mean, what does Muss do on offense? It's very difficult to pin down. He doesn't run something like that's as systematic as like a triangle or whatever. He has like a free flow where he wants them to work the ball, set some ball screens, and then just like let the individuals, you know, cut and pass. And uh they they aren't getting they're not cohesive, and there's a lot of ball like stagnant. The offense looks stagnant. This happened to us last year, and I'm not sure what they're. This is the place where I know I trust Musk because he always gets them work it out. But they're obviously not doing something that he wants them to do on offense because the ball's not flowing freely, and they're not getting any easy not any easy shots. They're not getting as many easy buckets as you would like them to get. You know what I mean? What you want when your basketball team's playing great is you're knocking down good threes that you're getting because they're sucked inside because you're getting layups and dunks, and you're getting those from a guard coming in, a guy cutting this way, dump off to him, he dumps it to the guy that came over to help. It's like you want you want Brazil to just like hissing it off the backboard, and these are 100% shots. You want at least to get some of those, and then your threes to be good looks. And then every once in a while, if somebody has to make a tough shot at the end of the shot clock, that's okay. But most of our shots look like shots at the end of the shot clock. I mean, not most.
Yeah,
Too many of our
I mean,
shots look like
I
somebody
agree.
needs to make a tough shot.
I agree. I don't want to fall into the trap that's so easy to fall into when you're evaluating basketball, which is to overly focus on the offense because you had like one bad half. Because I think offensively they've looked fine, like in every half of basketball except for one so far this season. It's been fine. They had a bad half. Like that happens on offense, and bad shooting for a half of basketball is contagious stuff. Like I'm not that worried about that. Like they missed a bunch
And
of
if I'm being
threes.
optimistic about that half, you could say, Battle got in foul trouble. He started, that other rotation. Then Mackay came out, got in foul trouble. Also, didn't play as many minutes as he probably would like. Mark immediately tweaked his ankle,
Yeah,
and thankfully that didn't have much problem. But it definitely took him out of his flow for the
yeah.
first half of that game. There was a lot of things that happened in that first half that obviously everything just didn't go your way. So yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
I agree.
they played a bad offensive half. I think it's the first really bad full offensive half they've played. I think all the other halves have been fine. Some of them have been great. Others have been just fine. I mean, so I almost want to like flush that for all those reasons you just said. Just be like, I don't know, man. Like you play it, like sometimes the ball don't go in for a hat. Like yeah, that's just the way it is. I mean, I've seen that happen on every level of basketball, all the way to the top. Like where you're just like, in the NBA maybe it's quarter to quarter. I've seen like NBA teams like finish, the first quarter with 11 points or something. You're just like, what is happening here? And it just happens sometimes. But what's more concerning to me, and I do think this is fixable, and especially for a guy like Musk because it's stuff that he really preaches, is like to me it's the perimeter defense and the physicality is a problem. Like that's what you got to fix. Like you've got to get out on 3-point shooters, and we're just not. We're not guarding guards well. We're not stopping them from shooting. We're not stopping them from driving. We're not guarding, which is, if you'd have asked me, I'd have said, like, I know we're doing that well. Why? Because Devo Davis and Tremont Mark are guarding people. And here's one of the things, though, dude. So when you have a lineup where you have Brazil at the 5, it makes Mark kind of have to play like a 4 spot, and you don't want him doing that. You want him guarding the perimeter, like so. Because that's what he does. That's who he is. And so what you want is like, whatever, Ellis, Battle, whatever, whoever the other guy is, but Devo and Mark are kind of anchoring your perimeter defense. We need more of that. And the way to get more of that is to have Mackay at the 5, Brazil at the 4, Draymond at the 3, Devo at the 2, Ellis at the 1. Battle can come in for any one of the guards or whatever and get his minutes wherever. But like when it comes time to lock down defense, that you can slide Devo to the 1, slide and have Battle at the 2 if Ellis is out, whatever you want to do. By the way, Devo still 0 turnovers still on this season. But in a game where everybody was turning the ball over, somehow Devo doesn't. Ellis was turning the ball over all over the place, just getting it, dude, just straight getting ripped, dude. Like, which is I think Ellis is very good and stuff, but you're like, what is that? Devo still somehow doesn't turn the ball around. I don't know. But Yeah, dude. Like, I just want to. That's the lineup. I don't. I know. I'm just me, but like that's the lineup I want. I want to start games that way. Um, and I think that we've got to get up on some 3-point shooters, which means our help defense has got to be better. And for
Mhm.
it to be better, you need some guys that are gonna like when you know how this works, dude. If you're playing up on someone, this happens to guys like you and I all the time who are older now, playing with guys that are younger than us. We're not as fast as we used to be, if we ever were fast, but we're even slower than we were when we were already not that fast. And you're guarding someone, you're like, dude, you're gonna have to help me because I'm about to take this three away. This guy is not shooting threes on me, but what he is gonna do, if he wants to, if he decides to put in the effort, is he's going to go around me. So I might tell you that. What does that mean? That means that like you have to know this, and when that comes out, man, you gotta. And it doesn't mean like you overcommit to stopping. It means that like I'm there to bump him. I'm there to make sure he doesn't get like a straight line drive right into the paint, like that kind of stuff. And that takes like just a physicality and a defensive minded player that it doesn't mean Brazil coming across. Sometimes this works, but like this is not ideally what you want. It's just like, don't worry, Brazil will come flying across from the other side of the lane and just like swat it out of the air or whatever. No, you need someone to bump that guy off that drive, that kind of stuff. And we don't have enough of that going on right now. Because you got to take away the three. You have to take it away.
I mean, I was thinking that same thing. I mean, to be like get more specific, like it might be partially on defense. We were just spoiled last year. It was like kind of a big deal if a team scored more than 60 points on us last year.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because I mean, it was, I mean, it was the case that just that length, like the difference between having the guards that we had last year up top versus having like Ellis and Battle up there, like
Mm-hmm.
it's a big difference just physically, like that, like the reach, the way that they can recover. I
Well,
mean, the difference
sometimes
between
sometimes you forget how good Anthony Black was on defense. As far as he was fast enough and he
and
was
Walsh,
long
but
enough. Well,
and
Walsh
he's sending
count
people over to Walsh or Devo.
or
Like,
counsel.
yeah,
But what I mean is like a guy like Anthony Black was like kind of wide, but still fast enough to play defense, but like long enough to like make your shots very difficult. And he's a guy that could just kind of hip check. Like if you did get around him, if you got to step on him, but he could still like give you a bump. That bump was a significant bump, right? Because he was just so big.
and even just harassing you from an out of position, on your hip defensive position, the difference between someone like Anthony Black and Ellis, there is no difference. Like, I mean, Ellis, you don't even see his hand. Anthony Black, you're worried about still blocking you from behind to the side. And I mean, that's nothing. I mean, that's just the physical part. But then there's also the part that, and it's still too early to tell, but so far, it doesn't appear that we have excellent defensive players. We have
Well, that's the thing
me
is,
like what you what
I know Devo and Mark are excellent like one-on-one
Well,
defenders,
no,
but
as I say,
other
Devo and Blocker both look like they are like you know built to be good defenders. Mark's pretty good, but I'm saying the rest of the guys,
mm,
like last year, all those guys had defensive mentality and they had better bodies for defense. But dude, I mean, it's just the case. And we said this about Brazil, and this is where I started this whole thing. Is like Brazil is not a great basketball mind, and you can see it a little bit on. I mean, this is going to sound insult. I don't mean that in a bad way, but if it wasn't for his sheer talent and athleticism, he makes up for so much. Um, he's not instinctively a great defender. He just can defend because his talents and his tools are so good. You know what I mean? He can make up, he can recover, but like I said, blocking someone from behind because you were out of position looks like the crowd gets on your feet and makes you feel like you made a great defensive play, but actually you were out of position. You know what I mean? And it's
yeah,
still a great defensive effort after you got out of position. But he does a lot of turning around, you know what I mean? Where he's just like you can tell, and it's very small seconds on offense and defense where he's not instinctively sure where he should be or where to go or how to play this particular thing that just happened and then turn around and which one he should go to. And in modern day defense, with the way guys can shoot, yeah, I mean, good defense starts like 3 passes before the ball's anywhere near you.
Well,
You have to be,
remember,
if you're on the weak side, you got to have 1 foot in the paint, and you got to know why you have 1 foot in the paint. You know what I mean? It's not just
but do
because
you
you don't want
remember,
to guard that guy that's
but do
over
you
there.
remember Jalen Williams? How like Jalen Williams is not like some kind of, I mean, of course, if he's playing against like us or whatever, like he's a crazy athlete, but he wasn't like, he's not Trevor Brazil. Jalen Williams was 6'10". He was like average speed, like didn't have 7'7" wingspan. Jalen Williams was one of those guys who was always like that dude never out of position, right? Always in the right, always where he's supposed to be, always in the right spot. That's kind of the difference. And he was a great defender because of it. Like he was always where he's supposed, like always where he needed
And
to
you
be.
can tell by him, his ability to pick up charges, that's all
Mm-hmm.
instinctive intuition. He's not, you know what I mean? He knows where the guy's coming from and where he needs to be to just turn. And when that pass comes, just pivot and be right in front of him. And I mean, I've said this before about, there, the thing is, I think that there, and it's not saying people are dumb. There is a kind of mind that is good with numbers. There's a kind of mind that's good with language, and there's a kind of mind that's good with music. And it doesn't mean that somebody that doesn't have that kind of mind is ignorant in any way. It just means they're never going to be, it's going to take them more practice and more effort to be where somebody that naturally is gifted in that way and get naturally, and they'll never get to the place where somebody who's putting in maximum effort that already has that built in. And I think the place in basketball where you see it the most is with passing. Like there's a kind of guy, these guys like Jason Kidd and Stockton and Steve Nash and guys where it's like, and we've played with guys, the passing mind, I don't know what they're doing, but it's like they see the ball, they see Nathan that we play with, like they see the court differently than I see the court. And they have the talent for accuracy, but the real talent is knowing where all the pieces are and where they're likely to move as I move. And it doesn't matter how patient or, like I said, I think Devo is somebody who, how good you are with the ball. Devo's never going to be a John Stockton type passer because that's just not his gift. You know what I mean? He's doing everything right as far as protecting the ball, taking care of it, not making stupid positions. But and once in a while he'll make a good pass, but he's not a point guard that's like dropping dimes and getting 13 assists a game
Yeah.
because it's just not. And all that to say, there is a defensive mind that some guys have, and to me, it looks like we have a couple of those guys, but not everybody. And it doesn't mean that they're not going to be really good defenders. It just means we might have been spoiled, and this team may need to score 75 plus points to win most games.
Yeah.
And
And the
whereas
good,
last year we
yeah.
were like, dude, oh, can we just get 55 points because we're holding everybody to 48 a game, but we can't. How can we only give up 48 points and lose?
Well, the good
But
news is that they unlike last year, they have a lot more offensive firepower on this team than they had last year. That's for sure. They have more guys that can take and make shots than they had last year. Part of that's just having better offensive players. Some of it's that the roster is older, and so they're more experienced players. The physicality, though, is something, that part's got to have. Like we got to bang a little more, man. We have to hit some bodies more than we are. I don't know if that. I mean, Muss has brought it up, so I assume. I mean, if I was Muss, I'd be like, if you don't get physical, you're not playing. I got a lot of guys here like who wants to play physical. If you want to play physical, let me know, and we'll do it that way. One of the things that was interesting. So, um, Graham doesn't play in this game. Did I miss something in the broadcast? Because I was watching it later, so I was doing a lot of like skipping through. Didn't listen to a lot of comments. Just watch it. Is he hurt? Is his back out?
I also didn't listen to it very hardly with the commentary. I was just basically watching it um with the volume low. I thought the same thing. I didn't hear. We should probably have looked that up before we got on here, but I didn't think that they said anything about him being injured or anything. But I
Yeah,
did think for as anemic as that offense was,
in
I
the
was
first
like,
half, especially. Yeah,
I'd be looking for anything. You know what I mean? It looks like everybody's got the yips right now. Let's stick. Sometimes you need that guy that's just, only sees the basket. Like, here,
yeah.
go put the ball in the basket a little bit.
I mean, the
Um,
rotation, because this is a close game, not even close. It wasn't a close game because we were down this whole game. The rotation definitely like tightened up. I mean, so you had Brazil played 29 minutes, Ellis played 30 minutes, Battle plays 33 minutes. He probably might have played more than that if he wouldn't have foul trouble. Lawson plays 11, Mitchell plays 8, Davenport plays 6. That's kind of all jumbled up. Blocker gets a couple minutes, Pinion gets a couple minutes. But then Tremont Mark plays 38 minutes, and Devo Davis plays the whole thing.
mhm. That tells me that he probably is thinking more along the lines that you're thinking of, even when they were struggling in the first half offensively. If Graham was perfectly available and he didn't play him, to me, that tells me that he's thinking the same way you're thinking, which is like, well, this offense is just bullcrap, but it'll come. The main problem I'm having right now is I'm mad at these guys for the way they're handling the ball and turning it over and not playing the defense that I want them to play. And Graham definitely is not the answer to either of those problems. You know what I
No,
mean? Like,
no, I mean,
um,
no, he didn't like the way the three ball, and he didn't like the way the defense. So he's very upset about the defense. The two guys that are the guys you'd be like, well, they're pretty good, are Devo and Mark. So it's not surprising that they both play. Devo plays the whole game. Mark plays all but 2 minutes. He might have played the whole game too if he hadn't like tweaked himself. Like he might have gone the distance. I think Tremont Mark is probably the player of this game in the loss.
mhm.
Um, for whatever that's worth. I mean, he the second half, um, he finishes with 21 points. Um, Trevin Brazil has 9 and 9, but I don't think he played well. Devo, 10 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, no turnovers. We just didn't shoot the ball from three well, which I'm not that concerned about. I mean, Brazil was 1 of 4, Ellis was 2 of 5, Davenport's 0 of 1, Mark's 0 of 2, Devo's 0 of 4, Pinion's 0 of 1, and then Battle's 1 of 6. So Battle finally. Well, I don't know if we thought he was going to shoot 80% for the year. That was not going to happen. So
Mhm.
this is how that goes. So wrapping up here, I am still excited for the Bahamas. I think that this is an opportunity if they want to make it one to like really try to be like, oh man, the weaknesses have been exposed. We got to fix this, and you got a little bit of time to fix it, a couple days to fix it. Do you have did your level of concern for this team go up drastically or not really? Or
Um, I would say, yeah, for sure, it went up way up. Because mostly, like I said, added to the data of the game before,
yeah,
where even though I thought that team that we played before was pretty good, I watched them and they look like they have some players. This team, when I watched them play Vanderbilt, and I even said to you, we
I know,
talked after that I was like, that team didn't look like they
I
had
know. I don't. I didn't
anything that
want to.
really scared
I
me.
could have brought it up and been like, I called you. I said, "Do you watch that game?" You said, "Yeah," and I was like, made me a little nervous. You're like, "Not me," but
Well,
um,
because Vanderbilt was leading pretty a lot. Like basically,
yeah,
they came
yeah.
back, and
Yeah, it's just that it was that game was ended closer than I was. But like that being said, the reason I didn't bring that up until now, it's like I'd be lying if I said I was like I watched the Vanderbilt game and I was real nervous going. I wasn't. I was like, oh, they played Vanderbilt kind of close. Like this team is not like I didn't expect to go in and win by 35 points or anything like that. I was like, I'll probably have a decent game here for a little while anyway. I was not. I was not. I'd been lying. I'd be lying right now if I said that going into this game I was like real nervous. I wasn't.
well, the thing is, dude, they that team did hit, and maybe at the end of the year they'll be a great 3-point shooting team, but they did hit some crazy shit. Like they hit some shots where the defense was to say something good about it. Defense, the defense on the 3-pointer. I mean, there's nothing you could do better, I guess, other than we talk about this. Like you can be already there, and the guy can't bring the ball up. But like
Mm-hmm.
some of the defense jump outs on some of these like fadeaway 3-pointers was so good that I thought they were going to call a foul on it.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like the guy, I was like, oh, that he had to have hit him with his body. They were like literally chest, armpit to face when he
Yeah.
released that. and they didn't, and then they still went in. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
was like, so they definitely made some tough ones. I mean, I felt like my stomach dropped, and I was like, because I kept thinking we'd probably come back and scratch out a win, but when we
I
had a
was
little
I
momentum.
was I was pretty nervous at halftime.
Oh, I was real nervous at halftime, but then I thought once we got that ball, like we got it down to like 5 or 6, and had some momentum going. The crowd was on. I think maybe it was around the time that Mark had that great crossover and broke that guy's ankles and got the layup. And then we had a great defensive possession where they were swinging the ball around, couldn't do anything. Basically threw it out of bounds, and then one of their guys saved it from out of bounds to a guy, and it was one of those times where he was getting a high five from somebody on our team, maybe Devo or something, and still gutted it. And I think it was with like that was with like 5 minutes to go. So instead of getting a second stop and we have a chance to cut it to like 3, it went like right back up to 8, and then we went down and turned the ball over or something, and then they scored again and brought to like 10. And I was like, oh, that probably was our chance right there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
um, yeah, I mean, I'm definitely more nervous about the prospects of it looks to me like it could be. I mean, there's enough talent there, and Muss is a good enough coach. I'm sure he's going to get out of them as good as can
Dude,
be got.
yeah, like just nobody panic. Like
No, I'm not
Muss,
panicked.
yeah, Muss is gonna like, you got like
It just
every
might be. It might not be as easy as I was hoping it would be after the Purdue game, where I was like,
well,
could
you're
we
like, can
really
we
have a year where we win like 28 games and no one can beat us, and like we're number 2 in the country,
the
and you're
whole
just
year
like
long, like
walking through this.
it's not like one of those things where you go into the tournament as a 6th seed and then like win some games we're supposed to, and they play. I mean, but I still don't think that that's necessarily it. Like I said, they had a bad offensive half. They got to fix some things on defense. You do those things, you fix some things on defense, dude, and like it's going to be a lot better because you're not going to have offensive halves like that often.
Yeah, the other thing though is I do see that like because the rotation is tighter, I'm definitely more concerned about injuries. Like there's uh you've got a little bit of room with some of the like secondary big men, obviously. Like if I mean, I hate to say it because Brazil is very important, obviously, but even Brazil, I think even Brazil, if he was to go down, you could make up a good percentage of what he does with Graham and some other guys. If Battle or Devo or
Or Mark,
Mark go down, like if we have an injury, it's going to be tough. Like
yeah,
I don't know, maybe somebody will step up, but I don't know. Like the scoring part of our team is definitely it's not as long a bench as maybe I'd like it to be. You know.
yeah, yeah. All
Anyway,
right,
sorry about the late video, guys. We had
uh,
a crazy. Dan had games with his daughter in Memphis, and we just had crazy stuff going on. So this will be
yeah,
for Monday, I guess, if you want to watch it. Sunday's football anyway, so you'll have something to. When's the first game of the tournament?
Wednesday,
Yeah, so this will be before.
yeah, Wednesday night. So day before Thanksgiving, Arkansas versus Stanford. Let's see Makai Mitchell started that that 5 spot. Let's see it. I just like to see it. I just like to get a good look at that.
It'll be an interesting to see if Muss has kind of been doing what we thought, where he's just like on these more cupcakey supposedly teams trying to figure out his lineup, but against if in a team a legitimate, not legitimate, you know what I mean. But if he's
Power
like, all right,
five, Power
we got to get
five, friggin'
in a tournament, we got to get
yeah,
serious. If he starts Mackay, we'll see. All
we'll see. All right, man. Well, I'll see.
right,
We'll try to get that one out quick. Well, I'll probably see you Wednesday night.
all right, see ya.
All right, man.
Bye.
See you.